You're about to witness a seismic event.
Daddy, can you put on Skitbags radio?
No, go to bed.
Okay, yeah, that's the promo.
Yeah. All right, welcome to Skitbags Radio. Yeah,
what
we
up?
got the crew in the house tonight. The Terrible Four. What we got breaking through your door? We got the lady to the left. We're going to introduce ourselves and give you all our breath. This is the place for entertainment and all the things you want to know behind the scenes and how you break dreams. Next up, we're going to have everybody introduce themselves at Skitbags Radio on Dash Radio Dash Talk for Dash Comedy. Next to me, I have a wonderful young lady, a princess of sorts, you would say.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Gabby. It's nice to see you all. Well, here, listen. Have fun listening to me.
That's right, Cece.
Wait, but who are you?
Oh, me.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm Mr. CD Enforcer, a.k.a. Poppy Carlo, the co-host for tonight, and the other co-host for this event that we always run, and he does so well coordinating things. I'm pretty. He does all the work. That's how it goes. We got young Dev Sailor God. He travels the world with a hot rod. Tell him what it about.
What up, yo? Sailor Dev in the house, coming at you from Hollywood, California, in the Dash Studios. Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you guys. Carl, you're fucking killing the game over here. And I was going to say fantastic, or Terrible Four. Fantastic Four, motherfucker.
Yeah.
We are fantastic up in this bitch, especially you with that goddamn, you rocking Wakanda royalty threads all the time.
You know, it's Team Wakanda. It's Wakanda C today. You know what it is, a multiple personality disorder. You got to have a different swag every day to stay fashion correct.
Well, let's not forget the one and only, a Skitbags member, our good friend, Brian motherfucking Sanders is in the studio today. What up, B?
What's up, guys? I'm so happy to be here.
Likewise, man. We had the honor of having you on before, but one of our first guests.
Yeah.
Like I would say within the first 2 or 3 episodes we ever did, you came on and we talked about what we're going to talk about, the beginnings of what we're going to talk about today, which is now coming to fruition.
Yeah.
So that's why we're so excited.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, dude, the trailer's out. It's been a week. Less than a week it's been out. So, yeah.
Foodlies.org, you motherfuckers. Go to it right now and check it out so you can understand what we're talking about when we plug it.
That's right. Healthy life. And you were like traveling like all over the world and stuff, like just an animal, huh?
Dude, well, recently I went to Japan with a couple friends, and actually we were checking out their food scene.
Yeah.
So we shot some video there because everyone's like, oh yeah, Japan, all they do is eat rice and noodles.
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't come across barely any rice or noodles.
Really?
If you're eating the higher end food, it's fish, meat, vegetables.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Sushi, there obviously is some rice.
Wait, so it's just like if somebody offers you like rice or something like that in Japan, are you like, no, please?
I take out my monocle and laugh at that. No, seriously, it's for like cheap food. Like the only time we had it is when we were drunk in the middle of the night. We got some ramen. But
What was the best thing you had?
Wagyu, man, beef, just straight up fatty beef all day.
So what is the difference, the real flavor difference between Wagyu and like a normal high quality cut beef steak, like American beef?
It's just the softest, fattiest, best flavor you can imagine. Like nothing compares to it here. It's not even close. Like it's like white. Like you look at this meat and it's half white.
Wow, because it's so marbly?
Yeah.
Wow.
Sounds so tasty.
Well, shit, before we get into that, Brian is working on a documentary, a health company, a fundraising camp, a million different things that we're going to talk about. But as always, we start every episode with a breakdown of a movie or TV show or stand-up. And in honor of our guest today, we're going to break down or debunk, I should say, a lot of the health documentaries you see out there.
Yeah.
You know, we got What in the Health on Netflix. We got... Name some of the other ones, B.
Cowspiracy.
Yes.
Forks Over Knives.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
So, from your opinion, do you want to get into these kind of one by one and say what you like, what you don't like, or do you think like start broad and be like, you know, I think the intent of these documentaries is good and noble, like they strive to do good, but I really do feel like, especially with What the Health, they missed the mark.
Yeah.
When I hear somebody fucking say eating an egg is as bad as smoking cigarettes, I go, shut the fuck up. And I go smoke 5 cigarettes.
Yeah, well, they're not even documentaries. They're vegan propaganda pieces. Like, don't think of it as a doc. And they're coming from, you know, a good angle, but they have the wrong information, I believe. And they have And they have their own moral beliefs, which are fine, but I think they're misguided in those as well. So really, they're trying to make films about just not harming animals. And how they do that is spreading misinformation about nutrition, about the environment. Basically, that's what those films are about, is just kind of taking this very skewed opinion, and it's not based on science, and putting out some propaganda, scare tactics that makes you believe it. I mean, I watched it, I'm like, wait a second. Am I like, did all this research I've been doing for a year, does this even make sense? I'm like, oh yeah, it does. Okay.
It does. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's important to note, by the way, that we talked about this last time, but I think all of us are in the agreement that none of us want to see animals harmed and tortured.
No.
Like, we don't enjoy that. Factory farming is a bad process.
I mean, look, I don't want to see it, but I don't want to.
Fucking Carl.
I'm just saying, I don't want to see it, but I don't want it to stop. That's all I'm saying. Can you just give him like a big cage before you knock him in his head? You know, let him run a little bit. Like maybe we could have him like hunt it, make it like a game and shit. Like, oh, he had a chance and shit. Like, your meat is extra. Like,
we have tough, that. You know? Horse racing.
Okay, just checking.
So I lived next to a cow processing plant for all 4 years of college.
Wow.
And it, like, we were at least 4 or 5 miles away from it, and the smell alone was enough to just absolutely not. Like, most of my friends all became vegans because of it.
Yeah,
they burned the blood, and the smell alone was just. I can't even think about it.
No, I'm gonna come get all my rustic nature friends. Like, that's the first people I'm looking for, because I'm like gonna be like the brain when the apocalypse comes. My job is, I'll be like Donald Trump. I find good people to do a good job, and I'm gonna find everybody that knows how to kill, sail a boat, grow some shit, build some shit, and I'm gonna go to all those motherfuckers. You come with us, we're gonna be like the A fucking team.
Every single person is Devin. Just
exactly.
Devin.
No, he's one of my first. I already told him he was on my list like 3 months ago. You know?
I just got to learn to bow hunt now.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm a good hunter.
Bam, there he is.
I'm great with a bow and arrow.
Oh, there you go. Well, we got the team. Apocalypse happens. Skitbags radio. We got you.
Okay, so you know what the problem with that is with a cow processing facility like that, we're growing animals in one area, and then we're growing plants in a different area. That's the wrong way to do it. That's when things get bad. That's when you're having to burn blood. You're having to do these crazy things to try to grow these animals, just like try to get the ultimate profits out of this, right? But if you grow them together, then it's way better on the environment. It's way better for the animal. It's better nutrition for the actual plants and the meat you eat. Everything is better.
So they can use the waste as fertilizer?
This is what we used to. Yes, this is how we used to grow. It's mixed farming. They have rotational grazing. Right? Yeah, it's this is what we were doing forever until just in the last 100 years we're figured out ways to make extra profit by doing it. So like monocropping. Let's just destroy the entire environment and just grow one type of plant, and then let's pack all these animals into one like concrete facility and just do that separately. But really, actually, one thing people don't know that no vegans want to let people know is that all cows spend 2/3 of their life on pasture.
That's cool.
So it's only at the end when they go to the feedlot, and not all feedlots are bad. So most beef for most of their life is grass-fed, and it's natural.
I think chickens is a different story.
Chickens is a different story.
I can't.
I don't
even
eat chicken.
No, me neither.
I got a healthy real question. Is the genetically grown chicken with the multiple pieces really a real thing?
I don't even know what that is.
I don't know.
Oh, well, okay. So in the Underground Black Network, there's this weird rumor that places like KFC and high-producing chicken places to cut prices have farms where they do the genetically induced chickens that have multiple legs and things and like are really fat and like die fast or something, so they can like make like an.
That sounds black conspiracy to me. You're like, they only targeting Church's Chicken and KFC.
I told you. There was the Underground Black Network. You know what I mean? It's not really based on fact. It's more like magic. You know what I mean?
Like magic?
Yeah, it's just magic.
Well, all right. I agree. And you brought up a good point and about the vegan thing. And I want to make it clear, like, I don't dislike vegans. I don't hate that. I don't. Sometimes it can be annoying, but I think it's gotten to be more than just a culture. It's very much, I don't want to say cult-like. Ideology is a good word. That's a great word. Because it's like, if you're not, earlier today, I was trying to watch just some random videos of a doctor. There was this one doctor online who's very popular. I can't remember his name, but he's vegan and he was watching What the Health and he was debunking it. And he made some good points and I agreed with him.
As a vegan, he was debunking his own.
I think, and it had a lot of views. But in this process, before he got on the debunk train, he goes, well, his guest was a writer or something, and to his audience, he was like, oh, by the way, guys, she's not vegan, so don't attack her just yet. And just that right there gave me an insight into the culture where, like, everybody's just so ready to jump on somebody else's shit. And it's not backed by, like, science. It's backed by cultural outrage. And it's more about, like you said, the ideology versus the facts. So,
absolutely.
With these films, Cowspiracy being one of them, what do you think what did they get right first? Let's start with that. Did they get anything right?
Barely. I mean, if you want to talk about Cowspiracy, that whole film was based on something that was proven not to even be true. There's a report called the Livestock's Long Shadow, where they tried to say that animal agriculture had more carbon footprint than the transportation
So what
industry.
did they say? The whole farts thing? Like the whole farts thing with
methane.
the gas and all
There's
that?
so much to that. We could talk for a full hour on that. I can't even start. The methane. Yes, cows produce methane. There's so much more methane being produced by other things that I don't know why we're worrying about cows. Also, methane is a certain type of carbon pollutant that flows. There's some that build up and some that flow through, and methane dissipates. It doesn't stick around forever. So it's not the same as carbon dioxide, which actually sticks around.
Well, methane is a building block for organic organisms and for organic chemistry. So when scientists look at other planets for life, they look for methane, and I think methane or carbon. Methane and oxygen is a byproduct of organic life. But to start the process of creating life, oxygen doesn't need to be there. It only is methane and nitrogen. I think methane and nitrogen.
Yeah, and carbon dioxide, right? Don't they compare carbon dioxide or something and whatnot?
I don't know, man. This is why I'm not a scientist.
I have another question from the Underground Black Network. Carl, Wakanda Anthony reporting. And I want to know, because of the cows, do the actual psychedelic mushrooms come from the actual cow's poop in cow pastures and stuff?
I could take this one.
So can I go?
Okay. Well, all right. So I grew up in Florida, where we used to allegedly go pick psilocybin mushrooms, and they would grow wild in cow patties. So the way a mushroom works is it's mycelium, which is the actual living organism, and that grows in like a cotton web-esque material in the soil, all underneath the ground. And when conditions are right and there's the correct nutrients, like a cow patty, a mushroom pops up, and imagine mushroom is the fruit of the plant, basically. So it would be like the apple hanging from the tree, and then that contains the drug and everything like that.
Do they really bleed purple when you pick them?
Yes, and it's not a bleeding. It's the purple is the chemical, the psilocybin. So you can actually lightly simmer them and extract that and put it into tea, and we make Gatorade and all kinds of good fun shit.
That's better than what I was gonna say. Well, I grew up in Hawaii, and in Kualoa Ranch, that's where they film like Jurassic Park and stuff like that. And Lost. I tried to pick them one morning. You got to get there right at the right time, the right dew levels, and you get them right when the sun comes up.
They spring up overnight.
That sounds like a good. This sounds like a good movie title. Like
they're
magical,
really fast too, dude.
It's like some Linus Peanuts. Let's go to the pumpkin patch and wait for the mushrooms to surface. You know, but just to get hammered. You know,
I knew someone in Florida who allegedly had a large personal grow operation of illicit mushrooms, and I was watching these things be completely like the way it is when you grow it in a controlled environment, it basically looks like a patch of dirt, but it's like cow feces mixed with vermiculite and peat moss, and it's a mixture that it's like a bed, like a flower bed. It looks like, and you don't see anything, it just looks black on top. And then you'll go to sleep and you'll come in overnight and there'll be a fucking huge mushroom the size of your hand and 6-8 inches tall overnight, like within 8 hours.
And you said it was different in Hawaii?
They're small in Hawaii. We only found a couple. I didn't even eat them. Yeah, we didn't.
They can be dangerous. By the way, if you're listening to this, do not wild go pick mushrooms unless you're an expert, because if you do the wrong one, it'll kill you. Yeah, it can kill you. Well, so what else on these documentaries and, well, I should say propaganda films do you think is detrimental? Like, what are the biggest misconceptions that you would say from all these?
Well, I just don't like people who use their own ideology to make nutrition recommendations for other people that actually hurt their health.
I saw something like that the other day. This girl, Emily Hartridge, that I follow on the internet, she saw a nutritionist that told people to eat 3 plates of fruit a day, strictly. And the girl was like super bone, skinny, flat, like anorexic skinny. Yeah. And she was like a famous, and the Emily chick was like retweeting it, like, yo, just look at what this chick is telling people. Like, is it stuff that bad? Did you see?
Well, just animal products are the most nutritious foods on earth. Like, we know this. There's a guy, Weston A. Price, that went around the world in the 1930s. He was a dentist, actually. And he found all the healthiest populations, the ones that live like their ancestors did, right? Like more the hunter-gatherers. And all that they had in common. He went to Melanesia. He went to the Swiss Alps. He went everywhere. And he found they all had the highly nutrient-dense animal foods as their most prized foods. The fatty fish, they'd eat the whole animal, beef, chicken, any kinds of animals, fish, eggs in general, high-fat dairy, especially from grass-fed cows. And what they didn't eat is sugar, processed grains, or vegetable oils. Yeah. So he found it's very clear that these are the things we should not be eating. So the one thing that the vegans and documentaries like that do get right is I think they try to promote no sugar. Yeah. That's almost the only thing they get right. Yeah. Is they don't like processed foods and they don't like a lot of sugar. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my diet. No milk, no cheesy stuff, no milk products, and no processed, no pasta, no rice, no bread and whatnot. None. It's just meat and vegetables and fruit. That's all I want to ingest. Whoa, a lot of tequila.
This is a lot of tequila. Well, what is this is a great question to piggyback off of that. We were talking before the show a little bit about sugars and carbs and the problems with them. What do you see as being the main problems with sugars and carbs, which are a lot of those? I think those would be considered the majority of people's diet, right? Yeah. Like majority of Americans especially incorporate, I'm going to guess a ballpark number, 90% of Americans fucking have sugar and carbs in their diet.
Yeah, and it's like 60% of their diet, which is a problem. So they're cheap, for one thing. The main thing is it's cheap filler. That's what I was talking about Japan. It's a good way to feed people cheaply. That's kind of how carbs were invented. We invented it only like 10,000 years ago, right? When we started, then later, we're building the pyramids. How are we going to feed all these people? We'll just give them cheap rice and stuff. Like, basically, carbs are cheap filler. I just think of carbs as cheap filler. That's just like in my head. I'm like, why do I need to eat this? It doesn't provide any nutrition really. And all it's doing is raising your blood sugar. So if you want to talk technically, sugars and carbs turn into glucose in your body. And it raises your blood sugar. And what your body wants to do is get it level, right? Okay. We don't want this raised blood sugar, so it secretes insulin.
Okay, so it is true that bread turns into like sugar.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
So does alcohol.
So does
not tequila. The agave plant would never do that to me.
I mean, that's been one of my issues with diet and fasting and stuff. Is like, I can go fine with just meat and veggies, but god damn it, I want a beer sometimes or something, and like
just get hard aid.
Yeah, beer's like
vodka.
Isn't beer like liquid bread or something?
Yeah, the beer is because of the carbs and it's made from fucking grains.
So just drink tequila. Actually, tequila is one of the best alcohols. Tequila straight, tequila water, tequila and lime.
Yeah, I have allergies and whatnot, and the only liquor that does not affect my allergies is tequila. I drink anything else all night, I'll wake up feeling funny or blurry or weird.
Most everything else is made from corn or wheat or grains or malted barley or rye.
Oh, so it's basically I'm eating a lot of bread all night.
Just coming from somebody who worked at a distillery for 2.5 years, but when you're basically extracting the sugars from those grains, and then the yeast feeds on those sugars to produce alcohol.
Dang, look, tequila should promote their shit as hypoallergenic. Stupid motherfucker.
Well, tequila is agave, and that's a different base. And same like rum. Rum is just from sugarcane, so you're still getting a sugar base.
Oh yeah, the sugar's bad too. That takes
the point being is, it's all not healthy for you.
If you're gonna drink, just don't drink it with a lot of sugar. Like, don't drink mixers. Like,
oh yeah, I'm an alcoholic. I drink my shit straight.
Good.
No vodka cranberry with Cosmos.
No, that's just like a load of sugar. So yeah, so if you're drinking all this sugar, you're just eating bread. So your insulin receptors eventually get worn out, right? Because it keeps having to produce insulin to knock back down your blood sugar, and then eventually that's how you get chronic disease. That's type 2 diabetes. Then you have to end up taking insulin shots for the rest of your life.
Are those receptors in your liver and kidneys, or are those throughout your whole body, or do you know? Because I've always wondered that.
Yeah, I'm not super scientific about that part.
Is it possible to change your diet enough to make your diabetes go away?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, that's 100%.
Oh, there's a company called Virta Health that's doing it up in San Francisco. They did a year-long study. They did like an actual scientific study, and 94% of their patients reduced their medications, and 60% reversed their diabetes.
Nice.
Actually reversed just by diet and health coaching.
Nice.
People have fought, not cured, but done very well in the fight against cancer and other, not just diabetes. It's other medical ailments, whether it's disease or any whether it's disease. Even like sometimes with like infections or viral stuff too, depending on your health and diet, can be preventative. So your immune system is stronger, or help it recover quicker. Let's say you're sick in bed with a cold. You can't fucking go out boozing and expect to get better. It's simple things like that. If you're providing the cells in your body with the right fuel source, then they should function the correct way, or be optimal in their functioning. I did have I came up with some talking points real quick. I wanted to ask you about something specific because I'd never heard of this. What is the McGovern report?
Oh, okay. That's how this all started. Our dietary guidelines, where we started going wrong, was in all throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. This whole time period, we were getting a ton of heart disease, and everyone's. President Eisenhower had a heart attack in the office. I'm like what's going on? Why are Americans like getting having so many problems? And there was a lot of theories. Then they put together a panel of people to figure it out. And this one guy, Ansel Keys, thought it was fat, right? And it seemed kind of obvious. Like fat was a problem. You eat fat, you get fat. That seems obvious. They did autopsies. They look at cholesterol. They look at your arteries, and it's like, oh, there's this cholesterol substance. Oh, it must be cholesterol. You can't eat cholesterol or it'll clog your arteries. So it seemed reasonable. We didn't have a lot of science at the time. So then there was another guy, John Yudkin, who was an English guy, who had the opposite idea. He thought it was sugar. He thought it was like refined grains and sugar, because all these English colonies, every time they came in and took over, they take over populations,
so we learned something from being white assholes. Awesome.
The white man comes in and people die for different reasons. And one of the reasons that they died is because they introduced all this sugar and flour into their diet. And they immediately went from healthy, never getting cancer, Alzheimer's, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, having none of this, to having rampant problems with this. And it's when they introduced this sugar and flour. So Yudkin proposed this. Ansel Keys, as American guy, said it was saturated fat was a problem, and basically Ansel Keys won. It was basically like a popularity contest.
But that's what I was saying. How was that decided? Isn't there there's got to be like an Academy of Scientists or American Health Academy that like kind of fucking just picks which lane to follow?
I think it's like when you're talking to Donald Trump. It's all about the last person he talks to. Because I'm old, kind of, I'm 43, and my whole life, every 5 to 10 years, there's a new thing that's killing us, and now it's gluten. It's a new thing. It's a new whatever thing. Every 5 to 10 years. Before, I remember when eggs used to be good for you. Now eggs are supposed to kill you. Now they good for you again. Ham was bad. Now it's good. Pork's the other white meat. It's good. I don't know what the fuck is going on. They change it every few years. That somebody comes up with a new.
Well, this is like sugar-coated,
stuff,
right? Sugar-coated. The documentary goes into the details about how the sugar industry paid doctors and scientists to say that sugar was fats that were bad for you and sugar was good. That's why we have fucking breakfast is now like pancakes and fucking sweet.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Like, you don't need that rush of sugar in the morning.
And like cereal and all that stuff.
Feed it to your kids.
Dude, that's a whole nother story. That was developed in 1917. John Harvey Kellogg and Post, like this all they're Seventh-day Adventists. There's this whole religious undertone to it too.
What?
Where
really?
Yeah.
Why am I not surprised?
So I researched why do we even think meat is bad? For all of history, meat was our life. We became humans because we ate meat, right?
That's
one of the. I thought that was what made us able to advance and move forward, was
cooking,
the ability to, the omnivore ability and eating meat.
Isn't Isn't that what they think is responsible for the development
Doubling
of the human
brain size.
double of the human brain, which made us separate us from all the other Homo sapiens species.
So we've always regarded meat very highly, right? And then all of a sudden in 1868, there's this woman she was like 17 and she had visions. It's almost like the Mormon story. Like I have visions, and she thought this was around the women's suffrage movement. So I mean, women they don't have a lot of rights. They're getting beaten by their husbands. Maybe she had these visions that red meat made men angry and violent. And she was a Seventh-day Adventist, and
some men.
So with their religion, they wanted to live a clean lifestyle. They call it, and they think all meat is bad. And she kind of took this to a different level and saying, "Oh yes, it's evil. It makes men angry." And she actually had a lot of influence with John Kellogg when he started all these cereal industries. So cereal industry, it was like a agricultural byproduct. Like we didn't even know. A lot of this stuff, like soybeans, we didn't even use it for human consumption.
God. So I have a weird story. When I was a kid, I used to get allergies as a kid. I used to swell up and stuff like that. When I got tested with all the needles that they do for you over like a course, like 20 needles, like 20 needles every couple of weeks, right? The only thing that I was allergic to was soy. And I was just like, and then I said, isn't soy in like every single thing in the world?
It's in everything. My mom's allergic to soy, and I give fucking look through the package on everything. And so is like high fructose corn syrup, though. Yeah. But the reason I think those are in everything is, like you said, they're cheap. But also, there's been a lobby campaign and a propaganda campaign. Now you're telling me since the 1800s. I always thought it was since the middle of the 20th century. Yeah. But, apparently this goes back way fucking farther.
Yeah, and they're saying to eat all these cereals. It's basically a business move. It's like eat. They're trying to sell cereal. There's like 100 cereal companies that blew up in Battle Creek, Michigan in the 1910s and 1920s.
Damn. So does the food pyramid have something to do with this? Because doesn't it have bread and rice and all this? Doesn't it tell you to eat it? Like, isn't that like on the top? Like, this is on the top of the pyramid. Eat bread and rice first. Then eat all the other
for that
shit.
Report?
That's why I'm making this film. Like these guidelines. So the government subsidizes corn, wheat, and soy, right? Mm-hmm. There's a long story about just people trying to make money. And some of it was based on, reasonable. It wasn't just evil, is what I'm saying, right? They thought fat was bad. Yeah. So like, okay, well, if you can't eat a lot of fat, then what should you eat? Well, you're left with carbs. That's what we're left with. So and then they gave a green light to make all these low-fat products. So then that's when the companies started making low-fat everything. And then, so it's all based on high fructose corn syrup and grains. And then when you take the fat out, you have to replace it with something to make it taste better. So it's high fructose corn syrup or sugar. Mm-hmm. So that's how we ended up with this mess. And so, I mean, there's a cool graph where you can see right when these dietary guidelines were introduced in 1980, there's a graph of obesity in America. And it right at that point, it just goes straight up.
Wow.
It's like... Low-fat diet is so stupid. So basically.
And I'm sure that there's got to be some correlation, whether it's been studied or not. But timing-wise, with the Industrial Revolution, people are not out there pushing fucking backhoes in fields anymore. Yeah. They're driving tractors. Yeah. The people are just getting to be less mobile. A car was invented instead of having to walk everywhere. People just in the modern age have become less physical.
I actually have a weird theory that because of the modern liberation of feminism and women and everybody else, with more laws letting more people enter the workforce and enter the business force and job force, a lot of people have exploded. So they try, companies, they're cheap fuckers, right? So they always try to figure out a way, like, okay, we got a lot more people, and we could pay them more, and we could make food a little cheaper from the get, but fuck that. You know what I'm saying? What we're going to do is we're going to switch this little grain shit right here. We're going to keep paying the same motherfucking price and play stupid and whatnot and make this whole scam about the grains and then laugh in the room when they see the scale like, oh, it's up 90%. That's my theory.
Well, you can look at any product in the store, and the more protein it has, the more expensive it is. So like the more you dilute the foods with cheaper grains, the cheaper it gets.
These fucking drug dealers cutting my shit.
Dude.
I want that pure.
Right? I want that pure.
Don't be stepping on my meat. What is the correlation, if any, about the claim that some of these propaganda films and a lot of these advocates for veganism are making between meat and cancer? Because there has been a lot of claims that the red meat has been listed by the World Health Organization as a carcinogen. Explain that to people. Let's shed some light on this, please.
I hate this. I hate these people. So the World Health Organization is so biased. They have such a vegan vegetarian bias. Like a lot of the members are themselves vegetarian. Just a lot of this stuff. It does get back to the mid 20th century, like you're saying. The hippie movement is when we started getting anti-meat, right? The Green Revolution, 60s and 70s. Yeah. There's books called The Diet for a Small Planet or Population Bomb. We thought that meat was the cause of a lot of our problems, and the only way we could feed the world is if we had this vegetarian diet, or it's like, why are we giving all the grains to the cows when we could just get the grains to the people, right? So that was the sentiment in the 60s and 70s, and we still have that, where everyone is more on the anti-meat side, right? There's always this anti-meat sentiment. There's always people in the HuffPost or like CNN trying to push this like, oh, meat is bad. Like,
I just think that's a where you look thing though, because like people in fucking Texas ain't concerned about the biggest. Yeah, you go around town here though in LA, and you're gonna run into that, especially at like restaurants.
In theory, since it's connected to aggression and almost like it's bad masculine behavior. If you're anti-meat, are you anti-male?
You can't make that correlation. Don't even try.
I mean, remember he said the lady back in the day said meat made the men angry, and then he said the new set of people said like, yo, we get more sensible in society. We got to be nicer.
Well, that's
more
just got to be
respectful of other people's rights, right?
Check it out. Like you got to think of that from
men are assholes.
Yeah.
So hey. And men eat a lot of meat, and they like to kill things, and women don't like to kill things. Women grow things and grow babies. So women are like, no, we make shit and grow shit, and you guys kill and eat shit.
That's not true. There's plenty of women huntresses. Anyways, hold on. I was going to say, I think there's probably a legitimate subconscious reason for that. And you got to think back to like the medieval and feudal times. Like as a general populace, you're going to be poor, you're going to be farming, you're going to be eating like cabbage and fucking corn and shit. And who gets to eat the meat? The king. So like it's almost like a sign of affluence, of being overweight back then is a sign of like success and wealth and power. And so for generations, hundreds of generations, that's probably been like the cultural stigma.
And I get that meat, though. But no.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You think those people like
I don't think they're anti-meat. No. I think this anti-meat, I think all these poor people around the world, they work all week to get the one piece of meat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they regard it highly. But it's just when you are rich enough as a country and have enough problems taken away from you, then you start to worry about things like, oh, is this meat giving me cancer? So back to your question about meat and cancer. So they've done studies. Epidemiological studies can only show correlation. They can't show causation. So a lot of the anti-meat studies, they're asking people, oh, what did you eat in the past year? And it's like, I don't know. Like I probably like this. And how many vegetables do you eat? How much meat? So it's based on these studies that aren't. So for one, the data collection is not very accurate. And then there's so many confounding variables too. They're like, okay, so people who tend to eat meat tend to ignore their doctor's advice because apparently meat is supposed to be bad for us. So people who eat more meat tend to smoke more. They tend to exercise less, right? It's the opposite of the vegetarians. The vegetarians are a healthy group because they tend to do the opposite. They exercise more and they barely smoke and they do all these other practices in their life. So there's another factor. Another factor is, what are you eating with the meat? So meat by itself is totally fine. It is perfectly healthy. The minute you start putting a sugar-filled bun or soda or fries next to it, that's where the problem is. So now you can't really separate that out very well.
So this is perfect because I really wanted you to get into the science of explaining how the body processes meat and protein and versus how it processes carbs, sugars, and glucose, and what basically, what we've talked about before, what the difference is between a diet that is just vegan and then a ketosis diet, and like what the advantages, disadvantages of either. And just so people out there are listening and they'll be like, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Why is meat good? Why is eating only meat good versus only eating something else?
Okay, this is a long one, but this kind of, so I did a ton of research. I wanted to find what's a unifying theory, right? Well, why do some diets work and some don't? And then why does a paleo or keto diet work where people are eating tons of meat and sometimes a vegan diet can work, right? That's sort of like, doesn't make sense to me in the beginning. And I thought that low carb was the only way to go. So I kind of figured that out. think. Where your body has two different metabolic states that it can be in, right? And it wants to either thrive and have a lot of fat, or it wants to have a lot of carbs, but it can't do well with both, right? So that's the paleo's one side, vegan's other side. Like, like the extreme, the raw vegan, they're barely eating any fat, right? They're just eating like fresh fruits and vegetables only. So most Americans eat equal amounts of fat and carbs, right? The average American diet is 40% carb, 40% fat, 20% protein. So that's right in the middle of that spectrum. That's where you get into trouble. Like, just pick an end of the spectrum, right? The easiest thing to say is don't combine fats and carbs together. And then also on the vegan side, I don't agree with that diet, because I agree you can do well on a high carb, low fat diet, but you need those highly nutrient dense animal foods. That's the most important part. So that's what the vegans are missing. But what, like I said about Weston A. Price, when he traveled around the world and found these populations, yes, some of them don't have access to a ton of meat, right? So they would eat like shellfish or clams or fish eggs and eggs. Like when they also didn't eat grains and sugar. They ate tubers, right? They ate like potatoes, root vegetables, which is a better form of carb. And so yes, they did eat maybe 80% potatoes, but then they ate this very nutrient dense animal foods. Like they would eat the whole animal. They'd eat the liver, right? That's where all the nutrients
amazing
are.
For you.
Yeah. So if you ate a diet that was mostly potato, you could eat high carbs, potatoes, fruits, vegetables, tons of fruit, tons of potatoes. You can tolerate those carbs better. You won't have those big glucose spikes and your insulin spikes, because you're able to tolerate the carbs because you're not eating a ton of fat with them. And then you have to supplement that with some good high quality animal protein and fat. Right?
It's funny you say that. I was just listening to Kevin Smith about his heart attack he just had, and now he was going vegan because
I want to talk to him because he's
well,
miserable.
You can. We're friends.
Oh wait,
he's miserable.
Kevin Smith just had a heart attack.
Yeah, and he's miserable. He was talking.
Did you hear this about him being? His doctor said only eat potatoes, or the Weight Watchers people.
That's why that works.
Wait, only eat potatoes?
The potato hack. So that's the thing. That's a way that Penn Jillette lost weight that way too. But that makes sense. So people
explain what it is first, so they know what we're talking
about. You eat
about.
only, but for 2 weeks or more, you eat only potatoes. You can't have salt on it. You can't have butter on it. You're just eating straight baked potatoes.
Oh.
Yeah. Wait, is this healthy for you?
I don't think so, but I know why it works, and it could be healthy for temporarily.
Oh no, because I when I'm broke on rent check, I do that shit sometimes.
Yeah, it's a way to lose weight. So that's a second metabolic state that I'm talking about. That's almost like you're like a Simane in Bolivia or like the Catawbans in Melanesia. That's what they eat, and why it works is you're in a different metabolic state. You're not eating fat. Okay, there's multiple things going on. One is you're not eating that many calories because it's kind of gross. Like you're not eating the butter and the salt. It doesn't taste good, right? So you're naturally not going to eat as many calories, and then also your body can do fine. So it makes sense evolutionarily, right? There was times where we had a lot of successful hunts, and we gorged on fatty meat, and there's times when we didn't have any animals around, or the animals were very lean, and we had to rely on mostly vegetables and tubers. So we can do well in both of those states. So here's another interesting thing. There's no naturally occurring food that's both high fat and high carb, right? Every food is one or the other, right? You never really think about it, but all the most fattening foods for you are that combination. A donut. What is a donut? High fat and high sugar. What is pizza? High fat and high carb. Okay, so that's not natural in nature. The only food substance on earth that's both high in fat and carbs is mother's milk. That's specifically designed to fatten up a baby, right? So other than that, we generally ate either very high carb and low fat or very high fat and low carb.
Question, are there any individual vegetables or fruits that if eaten in high abundance can actually get to be bad for you?
Well, I think sugary fruits are kind of bad for a lot of people. Like tropical fruits. I mean, they're really high in sugar.
Really?
And especially if you juice them, that's the worst thing you can do. Just drink the juice.
Because you're concentrated.
Yeah, but if you have it with the fiber, it's okay.
Oh, that guy with the juice is going to be pissed.
Yeah. but a lot of people, if you're...
That's a big fad right now, too, juicing.
I think juice fads are the worst thing to do. So at the end of a juice fast, you're starving and you're addicted to sugar. So I would say do the opposite. Go on a sugar fast.
He makes like a crackhead.
Dude, no, if you just take out all sugar from your diet, then you're gonna be eating more nutrient dense foods. You're gonna be feeling fuller. Right? Part of sugar is like a drug. Like people are addicted to sugar. Like
real talk. Sugar is one of, if not my biggest addiction. And I've quit smoking. I mean, I've done every drug under the fucking planet that we know about just now. And sugar has been my biggest one to get rid of. And I could feel the bacteria in my gut craving it. Like I was telling you about this. I did a 12-day water fast, as you guys know, like 2 months ago. And that means absolutely nothing in my body for 12 days except for carbonated mineral water or regular water. Like no coffee, no nothing else. And I could tell that once I got over that like craving of sugar, my body was craving sugar. It wasn't craving food. Like it was literally, I could tell like, oh, if I ate something very proteiny or starchy, I would still like want to go have a soda or something. Like my biggest thing is coffee with sugar. Like I did love black coffee with a shit ton of sugar in it. But being trained, my chemistry in my body was so trained on that like the addiction to sugar was so fucking powerful that I would be like, cut everything out, no drinking, no smoking cigarettes, no doing any other drugs. So I'm on this water fast. But the craving for sugar was still there, and I knew it was sugar because it was my brain telling me you want this, not that. You know.
Another question from the Underground Black Network, Carl Anthony reporting. And what's the story? I heard this weird story about these things that they say that from eating a lot of bad food, they kind of get these things that are almost like tiny worms in your stomach. They kind of crave these bad things.
Well, they're not worms. You kind of know what I'm talking about, it's just your gut microbiome. That's kind of what Devin's talking about. They're not worms. They're just tiny bacteria. There's like billions of them.
Billions of bacteria in your stomach and in your intestines and your liver and kidneys that basically, they're calling it now your gut is your second brain. Because based on the foods that you input in there, it determines what types of bacteria grow. And what types of bacteria grow affect what chemicals are released throughout your body. So if you got too much sugar, they release insulin, things like that. But they also affect hormones in your brain and your mood and your ability to have cognitive function. I know that when I go and I work, back when I was like fucking working at the distillery and I'm boozing and eating burgers every time and all night, and then I like take a vacation and go away for a month and go like sailing or something, it's a totally different mood and person. Like I get way less stressed, less irritable, like I'm more happy, more energetic. I don't have a crash. That's a big thing. People don't realize. You go like you eat a big meal and you come home and you're tired. Like, well, what did you eat? If you're running straight off of fats and proteins in a state of ketosis, you don't have that dip. You just keep powering through with consistent energy. That's a big difference.
It's huge. And when you're eating carbs, yes, a lot of people have to eat every 2 hours. And and if you're eating these highly satiating fats and proteins, I mean, people talk a lot about intermittent fasting these days. It's easy to go 16 hours without eating, which is what I do 5 days a week because I'm not addicted to sugar. Well, I had to go through a period to get fat adapted. Right. So that's when you kind of have to end your addiction to sugar. And even though I was eating a low carb diet for like 4 years, I still, when I actually gave up carbs, I felt it. Like you get the keto flu, they call it. And there was a couple days where I didn't have much energy and I felt a little sick. But you can supplement. You're supposed to take some extra magnesium or potassium, stuff like that. It's not the end of the world. And then after that, I was like, whoa. So this is how I'm supposed to be living. Like this is what it feels like to live and be, like consistent energy. Like, I got leaner, everything. I haven't been sick in years.
Look, what I tell people is like you really don't notice the difference until you experience it firsthand, because everybody's scale is going to be different. Like I was talking with Brian earlier, I was like, B, you probably have a higher metabolism rate than I do, just naturally. And I know that just because I know what I eat and how it affects me. And like, that burger went straight to my ass. But, things like that. So, I mean, each person's a little different. But if you just, what's the worst that can happen? You go give it a try for a week or whatever. If you don't like the difference or don't feel it, fuck, it's a free world, free country. Go jump back on your other diet, whatever. But I always say, like, at least try it, because once you do get over that, like, keto fuel,
get over the hump.
Get over that hump, man. And it's all, and
I recommend, give it a try. And you know what I tell people? You don't even got to work out. You know what I mean? I think because it's hard. When you tell people to get on a diet, or you tell them to try to lose weight, or you tell them to try to get out, the first thing they think is, oh God, I'm gonna have to pick up weights and I'm gonna have to go run. It's like, you know what? Hey, how about I tell you this, you fat piece of shit? All you got to do is just stop eating all this bad shit, and you can eat all the salad and fruit, you want. Like you can even be like a Bronner fucking source. Like when I've noticed with eating healthy food, I can eat a bowl the size of this room, be hungry 40 minutes later, but I can eat another bowl and I'll be fine. It'll just come right out the tutor later.
Yo, I fucking kill spinach like I'm fucking Popeye over here.
Did you have something?
Well, I think the best thing that I ever did my whole life was I have honestly never drank a full can of soda. I do not like soda. My entire carbonation really stresses my body out and I burp like so much. It's just so much. But I've always, my entire life, I've never been really into sugary stuff. Desserts aren't my real big thing. I don't drink sodas. Water has been my favorite drink my whole life. And I'm this tiny. I don't work out. People are always like, how the fuck do you not work out? I just eat well.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
That's why Asians like in Japan, like why are they so healthy? They eat carbs. I'm like, they're not eating sugar. Like
raised by an Asian.
Yeah, it's 80% diet. Like 20. Losing weight, you shouldn't try to exercise to lose weight. Exercise is amazing for so many other things, but not for weight loss. I mean, so
what out of you putting together this documentary, you've gotten in contact and had the opportunity to host and interview amazing professionals in this industry. Will you give our audience a little spoiler to some of the people that you've talked to? Like I specifically want to bring up Dr. Sean Baker because I love him.
Yeah,
fucking Sean Baker is. Tell them who Sean Baker is first, because I don't think they know. Like he's a mutant. He's a freak. I love it.
He's this giant. He's a doctor for one thing. He's this giant man who's only eaten meat for 20 months. So over a year and a half, he's only eaten animal products. Okay, so
like no veggies, nothing else.
Listen, he was in town to do Joe Rogan's show, and I interviewed with him, and I obviously had to cook a steak with him after. And I had this herb marinade I make. It's really good, all these fresh herbs cut up, olive oil, like garlic, and he's like, "No, man, that's not meat, dude." I was like, he just like crushed. We went to In-N-Out and he ordered 16 patties plain, just ate them all. And then I made him like a 2-pound steak and he just crushed that.
Yeah, but he likes it raw, no sauces, no nothing.
Dude, no, this dude.
Like the Brazilian steakhouse.
Bro, this guy looks like Hulk Hogan. Like he's tall and swole as fuck too. So he ain't like
fat. Is he a high fat diet proponent type?
He's
of
just
guy?
all meat. Like he doesn't even care about how he doesn't count my. Yeah, it's just
he's like, so is he from Oklahoma? I got a friend from Oklahoma. He's like, he said, Carl, I ain't ate a salad until I was 32 years old, and I kind of liked it, but I don't know about that, Carl.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
No, this guy. True. So yeah, he's in great health. He sets records on these rowing machines, like the very strenuous, like sort of a glycolytic event. It's like a sprint on a row machine, and he has world records for his age.
He should be like the spokesperson for beef and whatnot, like Meat Man.
Well, in a way, he's not sponsored by any industry, but he's sort of the spokesperson in this carnivore world. He has a site called Meat Heals, and he collects all these stories. There's thousands of people around the world doing this and fixing their health. Like a lot of people, like they do have like a gluten intolerance, or they do have some like inflammatory diseases because, and they don't even know it because they're just eating all these grains and all this different foods. And some of the people don't do well with vegetables, right? So not all vegetables are good for all people. So they cut it out and they just eat meat and they get way healthier.
When you say meat, what kind of meat?
Steak.
Straight up just
steak.
Just
a lot of steak. I mean, no, I mean, you can eat on a carnivore diet. Yeah, you eat eggs, eat bacon, but a lot of these people just say beef.
Like wild meat is definitely the ideal way from a nutrition and mineral content perspective. Like a game meat, like deer, elk, wild boar. Even wild boar is a little dirty, but even things like that. Wild fish, like not factory farm fish, wild ocean fish. As long as you're not getting it from fucking Fukushima or LA Harbor.
Did you say not salmon?
No, that's especially salmon.
Okay.
So all I eat is salmon, steak, hamburger meat, sardines, eggs, bacon, spinach, mushrooms, onions, and grass-fed butter. Basically, that's all I eat. Like I just rotate it up. It's so good. So you get some vegetables in there. I'm not like a carnivore guy. Some of these guys are really hardcore. I'm like, what's the problem in me eating spinach?
I think you can, you don't have to go too far to the extreme, but it's good. It's good to have a position to go from. Anyways, who else did you talk to about this?
Basically, I just poach everyone that goes on Joe Rogan's show.
Nice
Shout out Joe.
Yeah, no, we got Gary Taubes, Nina Teichels, Dom D'Agostino, Mark Sisson.
Dom was on there, and Mark Sisson. That's right. You told me Mark was on there. Fuck.
I got all
Those
the
are
big
great
ones.
people, dude.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So I'm interviewing a lot of them in Ohio soon, and I did a lot of the interviews already. Dr. Ted Nyman, he's the man. Dude, I love Dr. Ted. He just has a clinic. He just works for someone else and just treats people, gets them healthier with these low carb diets, cures diabetes, and doesn't try to make any money.
He sounds like the nice Dr. Ted. Hey, Dr. Ted's a great
and he's shredded.
guy.
He's shredded. Yeah. And he doesn't. Here, listen. So he's giving away free information. All he does is give away information and doesn't try to make money. And then he doesn't even use weights because he wants to set an example for his patients. Like, not all of them have money.
So he does like push-ups, sit-ups, self-weight stuff?
To failure. A lot. What I would say about exercise, you don't have to exercise that much. You don't have to do tons of cardio.
Go to failure.
Unless you want to. Go to failure. You go to failure, you're signaling to your body you must get stronger or you're going to get eaten by a lion. You must get faster. So I started doing it and I started getting way more in shape. Like it's crazy. Just do pull-ups. I could now do like 23 in a row. Like you just go and then it's every week I could do more. And that's all. You can do it in 15 minutes.
That's why I like Dragon Ball Z because it kind of relates to the human life that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger by pushing yourself to the edge. Because they always will come back stronger and better. You know, they get beat to the ground, they'd be all broken the fuck up, and they come back and they'd be a lot better. And that's what he said, pushing yourself to failure.
Just do two more.
You know,
if I could say anything, just do an exercise. Don't do 10. It's like, I'm going to do 10. 3 sets of 10. No, don't think about how many. Just do it. So you can, and then do 2 more, and then leave the gym. You could be done in 15 minutes if you want.
I don't know how effective push-ups are going to be when I'm trying to make my spirit bomb, bro.
Hey, I'm saying, you know what I mean? No, that's how you get your cheat.
I know. I'm just fucking with you.
Another question from the Underground Black Network, Carl Wakanda Anthony reporting. I've heard about these things called lectins. They say something like LECTI, lectins. I think that's it. Are these real? What's the story with this situation? The Underground Black Network.
Wait. Well, tell me the context because there's
well, I saw this little video with this guy. You know, another whack job. You know who they all are. But this one guy, they were lectins, LECTINS, and he said it was in like tomato skin. That's why, like the Italians, when they make their sauce, they get out all the seeds and something they only, or, you know what I mean? Or things. Okay. Is this in other foods you shouldn't eat, like peppers and stuff like that?
I mean, you can't make blanket statements for one thing. Yeah. So there's always a spectrum, but lectins. So some people are, I think it's coming from the carnivore side. Some people are getting like anti-plant, where they're saying, hey, plants don't want to be eaten. Fruits do. Fruits are. They say that it's like, it's sweet. It's the fruit, but the plant itself is the plant. Like it doesn't want to get eaten. They even have studies that show that if there's a deer eating a certain type of plant, they can hear it and they will change their profile and be more bitter so the deer won't eat them.
That's scientifically proven. Yeah. And it's also through Paul Stamets, now we know for a fact that plants have consciousness. Plants can communicate with each other through mycelium. They use the mycelium as like the internet of the plant world. And one tree, we talked about this last time, 2 trees will be like across a field or like a bunch of trees in a forest, we'll say. But these 2 particular trees are like, I want to trade potassium with that tree. Not like anybody got potassium, hook me up. They'll be like, no, fuck you guys. I like this dude. So like this
basically,
girl.
the network of roots and everything that's under the ground, there's pretty much a trade-off of nutrients going on from an osmosis sort of way from one to another, and then
mycelium acts as the facilitator to be able to transfer nutrients and electrical signals between other trees and plant organisms.
So this means
trees,
like
bushes, and everything.
All fantasy movies are true that have talking forest.
I mean, yeah. Well, here's a good scientific. I mean, I don't know how conscious you can equate it, but this is where we get into the blurred lines of we don't know enough yet. Because they hooked electrodes up to a tree and somebody took an axe and chopped it into the side, right? Nothing happened when they measured the electrodes until like 8 or 10 hours later. Then they saw a spike. So their relative reaction is just so slow because they live longer and they're built differently. So, I mean, I think that if you take it out of that context, like, we don't fucking know enough. And can a tree make a fucking phone call and call me up? No, not yet. But could they develop ayahuasca and plug me in through a chemical compound that is produced by nature and be able to something like that? I mean, that's basically what... chemicals are being transported through these systems through mycelium. So, I mean, I don't know, man. Cool. There needs to be more fucking research.
That's cool.
That's a whole different thing. But back to lectins. So back to the boring part. The lectins, I mean, there are some things in plants that people don't do well with, but I don't think it matters to most people. It's like there's small amounts. I think people know if you're lactose intolerant, you can't eat milk. I mean, like it's not as strong as that. But some people are trying to say, oh yeah, there's certain things with lectins. Like, I mean, really, we're eating. If you're eating whole foods, you're doing fine. Just I would never worry about lectins in like certain skins of tomatoes when people are eating like boxed mac and cheese, which is like 1,000 times worse.
That's literally like crack food. That's the
problem. I mean, that's part of why we got obese. There's all these different theories. There's a million things that happen, but engineered foods for taste. It's like if they have food scientists trying to make us addicted to these foods, and we're combining fats, salts, and sugars, and that's one of the reasons there's like snacking culture, right? It's all about making money, right? It's not a conspiracy really. It's just obviously companies want to make money. How do we make money? Oh, let's sell people snacks. Make them think that they have to even 3 meals a day. That's a whole thing that was like invented, right? It's like people invented that didn't happen naturally in nature. We of course didn't have 3 meals a day. But like, oh, we need to sell breakfast. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Yeah. Let's sell you a bunch of grains. And then you're going to be hungry 2 hours later because you didn't get any nutrition from that. So then they try to fortify it with vitamins because it has nothing in it. Then you're hungry again. Then you have to eat their snack bar. Oh, we have this special K snack bar. Like it's ridiculous. If you just eat eggs and bacon, you won't be hungry for like 5 hours.
Well, so throughout this research process and going down these different avenues of, I don't want to call them rabbit holes, but, basically lanes of like things you didn't know and learning about all this stuff. What do you think you have found out about that has surprised you the most so far that you didn't know before?
Wow. Okay. You can be skinny and in shape, but still be metabolically damaged and have problems. So there's a famous professor, Tim Noakes. He's in South Africa. He's actually put on trial just for talking about a low-carb diet on Twitter. And he spent 3 years of his life. Really? Yes.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Like by the government.
How does that work?
By the government of South Africa. Because they were saying that he was recommending a dangerous and unconventional diet. Because he recommended that like a mom asked if she could give her
And you said this is an African, so they were like, you are recommending a bad and very dangerous diet. We will have to lock you away, sir.
Not to hey, let's not bring up that we just got over apartheid like 20 fucking years ago, but we're going to throw you in jail for a tweet?
Yes.
Get the fuck out of here,
insane.
South Africa.
Thug life.
So he actually just finally, and he got off once, and then they tried to convict him or whatever it's called, and then he got off again recently. But he also was a famous athlete. So he's a famous scientist. He's an A1 rated researcher. He's like a top rated researcher. He's also a big distance running guy. Okay. And he wrote like one of the foremost books on running called The Lore of Running. And back then he recommended a high carb diet, and he did it himself. Okay, then he realized he was a skinny, in shape guy, and he had type 2 diabetes. And it didn't, usually it's just, if you're getting fat and sick, and that's when the diabetes comes in. So then he did all the research. He publicly ripped out pages from his book. He's like, this is all wrong. I'm sorry I was wrong. He's like one of the only people in these researchers that actually admit that they're wrong. He's like, and he's been down this low carb path ever since. And he has a whole foundation doing amazing work, getting people the access to the correct information, helping people with less money, get access to these foods. Because usually the cheapest food, like I said, is just these cheap fillers, corn, wheat, and soy that just are very unhealthy. So he's amazing. He's coming to America, and I'm filming him for this movie.
Yes. Just like Eddie Murphy. Nice.
Yeah. And you know what? I didn't tell you about the cancer thing. I didn't get to the end.
Yes.
Okay, so with cancer, the simplest way to think about it is smoking. Okay, we know that smoking causes lung disease. All right, so we did epidemiological studies. Right, those are those observational studies. You look at populations, they show correlations, and then you do scientific studies to show causation. So we were looking at these studies. We saw, smokers do get more cancer. We did the test, and the risk factor in these trials was 30x. It was between 10 to 33.8 times more chance that you're going to get cancer if you smoke. Okay, so that's huge. 33.8x is huge. Okay, so in science,
when you quit smoking
in these trials, you're supposed to it's only significantly. There's only significance if it's a risk factor of 2 or less. Okay, because if smoking is 33.8, if it's just a 2, that means there could just be noise, right? It's hard to just know if it's anything less than 2 is even
That's like the margin of error,
basically.
Much.
So with the smoking trial, so all the ones that the WHO put out, and all the stuff you've ever heard of about smoking is based on a significance factor of 1.17 or 1.18. That's less than 2, and that's a far cry from 33.8.
Right.
So do you realize, just think about this. This is how skewed the media and how biased it is. They found a 1.18 that's not even statistically significant, and they spread headlines around the world that meat is bad for you. And this is even just processed meat is what they're talking about.
Dang.
I mean, bologna. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to recommend to eat bologna. And
I'm not going to fucking live off of New York hot dogs.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
hot dog cart.
So that's how meat got rated a type 2 carcinogen, is just from these bogus results.
So how do we, I mean, obviously your documentary is doing it, but how does the person listening out there, if they're discovering this for the first time, I obviously go to foodlies.org, but from there, when they talk to other people and have these conversations, what's the best way to approach it? Because I was also wanted to bring up, the whole culture behind veganism. And like I said, I really don't have anything against vegans except for my agreement with you about the spreading of ideological beliefs versus factual representation of reality. And that's a dangerous fucking lie. It's like if you lied to me about this just because you're a fucking Seventh-day Adventist who, doesn't think men and the patriarch are evil and red meat causes it, then I can't really take too much else that you say for fucking legitimate fact either. So without having a fucking fight about it, when people go home to their families on Thanksgiving, how do you talk about this with other people?
All right. You just need to rethink things. Okay. Just reset your mind. Sometimes I have to do it too. I'm like, wait, what? All this advice we've been given, where did this come from? What are their interests? Are they, that they have ideological things? This is where it's coming from. A lot of these researchers in Harvard are vegetarians, and they, want to prove that it's bad, and they try so hard to prove it's bad. But I could show you 100 studies proving that a low carb diet in randomized control trials does work and is better, right? So you have to just think where the information is coming from and why do people believe this. That's why I started researching. Okay, when did we start believing meat was bad? Because 1,000 years ago, no one thought meat was bad. Right. You know what I mean? There's no concept of veganism prior in history. It's just
called poor.
And the Homo sapien body is about 4,000 years old, 6,000 years old. Our body type, you know what I mean?
No, it's more than that. It's 400.
Yeah.
Okay.
400.
So we've been pretty much packing away the same shit in the same kind of body, and it was never a problem for about 398,000 years or something like that. And then all of a sudden now, oh man, I don't know about this meat shit.
It's crazy. So just rethink it. Just have an open mind and do your own research. I know it's too. I mean, it took me a year to figure all of this stuff out. Not that I have it all figured out, but I mean, I quit my job and it's just I'm going to make this film. I'm going to learn everything I can. Yeah. And it took me a while to get through it because everyone has their own tribe. I admit I started out biased. I thought low carb is the only way to go. But then I figured out, oh wait, there's 2 different metabolic states. We can be okay on a high carb diet, but no one in America is going to do that. Yeah. Who's going to eat? Maybe people. You would have to eat only potatoes, fruits, vegetables, and organ meats, and like low fat meats. I mean, it's not very appealing to someone to go very low fat and then still have those. So you'd have to be a vegan diet plus chicken liver and oysters. So I think that's a perfectly healthy diet. I'm not going to do it. But if you're going to eat, you can get away. I'm not saying everyone has to eat a ton of meat and fat all day.
That's another misconception too. I feel like if you don't agree and fall into the vegan camp, you're against them. There is no middle ground with that conversation.
I think that's destruction of modern time with social media, especially in America. The Republican Democrat approach, the religious Muslim or religious non-religious approach. It's almost like that. Nobody really can handle the middle ground too well. It's just if you don't completely co-sign their stuff and give them a blowjob, then they figure, oh my God, you hate me, you want me dead. You know what I mean? It's just no, why can't it just not be my thing? It's
somewhere
bro?
In the middle. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to get on social media these days, and I'm talking to vegans, and you're yelling at me, they're showing me studies, and I'm like, I'm trying to just be in the middle. I'm like, hey. I understand this, and I'll explain to them why this study doesn't make sense. You're looking at 500 people in Finland that did one. You're not proving anything to me. You're just telling me that 500 people in Finland don't eat meat. I don't care. Right, but I'm trying to just say, hey, open your mind, think about this. Like, I'm not saying that everyone should eat a certain way. I'm just trying to say what's the common ground here. What do we know is bad and what do we know is good? And I'm all about nutrient density. Mm-hmm. Here's a one. No one really breaks this down this easily. Where food is just 4 things, right? It's fat, protein, carbohydrates, and micronutrients. We can just group everything as micronutrients. Okay, so the protein and micronutrients, that is the building blocks of your body. That is what you need. You need to focus on those. Okay, the fat and the carbohydrates, those are just fuel sources. Think of them nothing. You're not getting much nutrition from them, right? It's just fuel sources. So just eat as much protein and micronutrients as you can, and have as little of the fuel source to your goals, right? If you're like a athlete, then you're gonna have to have more fuel source, if not less. And if you want to lose a lot of weight, then you have to really cut down on that fuel source. So then I'm also saying that fat is the preferred fuel source. It has a lot of better things to it. Like most of the carbs out there are bad for you, like sugars and grains. So if you choose carbs as your fuel source, I would say you have to eat like potatoes and vegetables and fruits only. But fat also has the whole thing of, you eat a ketogenic diet, you can be in ketosis. It burns. There's tons of benefits. Also, you're going to feel fuller, right? If you're eating, steak and bacon, you're full for a while.
Right. Yeah. It's not a hollow feeling and not easily digestible. Like it is easily digestible, but it's denser, so it takes more time.
There's a corpse. It lays around for a while. You know what I mean?
And then there's also something called the protein leverage hypothesis, where basically humans eat until you get enough protein. Like your body needs protein to live, right? So if you can eat a bag of potato chips, and you can just keep going. You're like, how am I still eating this? Yeah. It's because it has no protein. You're not getting any nutrient value out of it.
Or I just smoked
is that what they mean by empty calories?
Yeah, kind of. Okay. So then if someone gave you 30 steaks, you're gonna eat the first 1.5, and you're like, I'm done. Right? That's just you're getting everything you need from that steak.
So that's why they have like those 86-ounce challenge, like come to Jackson, eat the 86-ounce steak, and I get it for free. You know,
you're not gonna do that. Yeah. So just focus on nutrient density. That's sort of the unifying theory too. Is just I don't care if you're vegan. I don't care about your beliefs. Well, just don't spread misinformation, and let's just try to eat the most nutrient dense foods, because that's how you're going to be healthiest. If you're going to filler, just carbs are cheap filler, right? In supermarkets, the cheapest thing has the most carbs in it. So just eat the least amount of filler. The carbs are just excess. They're not giving you anything. So just eat nutrient dense foods. Those are the foods I listed before that I eat. It's just like steak and salmon and spinach.
Well, before we wrap this up, I want to get to some rapid fire stuff real quick. But before that, I did have a question about moving forward as a species. We've talked about what we need to do as far as intake for nutrition and fuel in our body, right? So we kind of have an idea about that, or at least you do, basically, and that's what you're telling us. And we do have a way, and I know through my research with permaculture and sustainable growing and agriculture that is sustainable, that you can develop systems that incorporate, meat and veggies and crops, and they all work together by one feeding the other. A chicken, lays eggs and does this. Yeah. But those, to my knowledge, those systems only produce. They have a capacity of volume, so they can't sustain large populations.
They can't scale it up very large.
They're not designed to be scaled up. See,
so they have to be maybe like more local kind of situation.
They're like your garden in your fucking neighborhood, and they grow crops for everybody, and then has like a couple cattle or like whatever it is.
That'd be a good government project.
But my question is is there a way to feel, because we developed the mass production of crops and everything to sustain the culture and to feed millions and millions of people, right? That's what has allowed our population to basically grow exponentially in the past fucking 200 years. I mean, you look at how many humans were on the planet 200 years ago compared to now, it's fucking less than half. So is there a way to achieve the diet and nutrition necessary but still do it in a cost-effective manner on a large scale for humans?
Absolutely.
Okay, what is that way?
it's okay. We'll talk about rotational grazing. This is an example of how to raise animals and plants together. So picture you just have a big plot of land. Instead of just letting the cows roam on it, you put them in a small area and you get a small slice of that land, and you use fencing, and they just graze that grass for one day, and then you move them along. So now they have all their fertilizer and on the ground, and then the chickens come along, and now you have pasture-raised chickens picking at the manure. They're spreading it around. They're adding their own manure. Okay, then you just follow that around, right? So say it's a 2-month process. By the time you're back to that same grass area that you started with, it's all grown up again.
So it's kind of like with how farmers rotate their acres. Don't farmers rotate the land kind of like that?
So okay, all plants just take from the soil. All they're doing is taking nitrogen and other stuff from the soil, so they have to put it back in with fossil fuel nitrogen and fertilizers and all this stuff. There's so many problems with monocropping, and yes, you leach the soil with too much with one crop, so you have to plant beans or something that put a little bit of nitrogen back in the soil. So yes, that's why they do it. But really what you should be doing is growing stuff along with the animals and growing perennials, not annuals. Like you don't want to grow something every year and then harvest it and rip up the ground and start again.
You want something that comes back every year.
And so there's a guy, Gabe Brown, in North Dakota that has a 5,000 acre farm. So he's doing this on a massive scale. He's totally profitable. And he's doing this sort of rotational grazing system, like using the animals and the plants together, no till, he's not digging up the soil every year. And he's making money, and it's 5,000 acres. That's giant. That's
a lot.
So he's doing this. And so we could do this. We don't need to grow all these grain. The problem is that the corn, soy, and wheat, we're having millions of acres of that stuff. It's government subsidized. No one wants it. We're trying to ship it to other people. It's just a disaster. If we take all that land, also we're raising it, some of it to feed to the cows. This doesn't make any sense.
A shit ton of it is just cow feed.
So what if we took like 1 million acres of wheat that we're feeding the cows and just grow cows, like I said, with this rotational grazing system, and we have enough food to feed people. So it's just about the use of land. If we change the land use, we can feed everyone using this system.
Is this use of land, I mean, I know it's been generational, but is it also a direct correlation between the government subsidies?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't. So I asked him, I was like, okay, how are we going to change this? He's like, you can't. You can't even get a loan. If you don't buy into the system, there's insurance. Farmers need insurance for their crops, right? And you can't get a loan without crop insurance. But if you don't buy into the system with the subsidies in the government, you can't get a loan. So you're screwed. The only reason he could do it is because he almost went bankrupt. All his crops failed because of weather, and he had to start from scratch, and he basically just figured it out on his own.
So basically, he's going to take a revamping of actual laws, even. And so
it's going to do the culture first, because like we've talked about before, politics follow culture, and that's why I think that's why.
From the consumers, if more, and it's changing. So he's saying he's working with big food companies that know that there's more demand for this. So they're like, oh wait, how do we get? He's like, how do we sell? People want these products, so obviously companies are smart, and they're like, how are we going to sell more products? Because people want more protein now. They don't want low fat products. They want sustainable stuff. So
real quick, I didn't even think about this until you just brought that up with demand. What do you think about the new revolution of laboratory grown meat?
I think that's horrible.
Wait, whoa. On 22s, laboratory grown meat.
Yeah,
they're trying to do that.
You got to enlighten them, brother. You got to tell the Underground Network this. Carl Anthony from Wakanda reporting.
Well, yeah, basically, I don't even want to know about it. I know that they're growing it. I know what they're doing.
Silicon Valley is taking cellulose and replicating cells from plant-based and creating
there's
meat.
Two different things. There's plant-based fake protein, like an Impossible Burger.
Right.
But there's also lab-grown meat where they're actually taking like animal tissue and just growing it into meat.
Wow.
And they
could grow like a T-bone.
Yeah, they're starting with just like hamburger meat, right? To get that structure of a steak is really hard, but really just to try to make some kind of meat mush in the beginning. But there's a few things why that's horrible. For one, you're spending tons of energy. If you're looking for a carbon footprint, you're using tons of these big labs and energy and refrigeration, and like you're spending way more money and carbon on that.
Yeah.
Two, we need animals for our food system to work.
Yeah.
Ruminants are part of this system. Cows, ruminants are anything with 4 stomachs, like sheep and cows, stuff like that. There's a natural cycle that's been happening for millions of years where they eat the grass. This is undigestible cellulose that we can't eat, and they're turning it into high quality protein that we can eat. They're fertilizing the soil. It's a cyclical process that works perfectly. And them eating the grass stimulates the grass growth. And there's no inputs to that. You just have rain and sunshine, and this can fuel this process for a million years. You could have a couple cows on a plot of grass for 1 million years, and it would just keep going. They would have they'd have offspring, and it would just it puts nitrogen back in the soil. It helps soil. It puts carbon back in the soil.
Yeah.
You can, like, people are talking about global warming. If you raise cows properly, it actually helps global warming. It puts it would offset any methane, and it puts it back. It puts carbon back into the soil.
Yeah.
Well, I have 6, 7 things I would like to have a rapid fire real quick.
I'll try.
And just give us thoughts and, your interpretation of these topics in I don't know, less than a minute each or something. Fiber. What's the deal with fiber?
It's okay, but we don't need it. So it was kind of based on studies. We looked at some African populations were really healthy and they ate a lot of fiber. So we're like, everyone has to eat fiber. Guys like Sean Baker are proving he hasn't had fiber in 20 months and he's doing fine. It's just, you just don't need it. Like, there's no actual reason for it. Like, there's tons of people who don't eat fiber who are perfectly healthy.
Awesome. 3 ways to lose weight.
Oh, avoid fat, avoid food, or avoid carbs. Right?
Seems pretty easy.
So that's basically the 3 ways. Like, avoid fat, avoid carbs. That's like kind of like a vegan diet or a paleo diet, or avoid food, which is what a lot of people try to do, and that's the worst one, right? You're just going to end up being hungry all day, and it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Cholesterol. No, we've touched on
cholesterol. Yeah, that was just a lot of bad science, and there's so much to cholesterol that I'm still trying to understand. People are getting really detailed on, like, LDL is supposed to be the bad cholesterol, HDL is a good one. Then within LDL, there's like the small dense particles, and there's the light fluffy particles, and then there's even more to it. So really, what causes heart disease is really just these small dense LDLs that are getting inflamed by excess carbs and sugar. So when people say cholesterol is not even a good marker for heart disease, like your insulin control is a way better indicator. Or like a calcium score that they can do is way better than just measuring cholesterol. And also, if you get your cholesterol taken, it's more about your triglyceride to HDL ratio, so total cholesterol means nothing. But if you look at basically we're getting too technical, but just ask about what's your triglyceride to HDL ratio, and that will tell you a lot more. And I actually finally did this, and I have a very good ratio.
We'll see, and that's the thing I was going to bring up, and this is why we talk about this stuff, is most people don't even know there's fucking multiple types of cholesterol. Yeah. What about blue zones? What the fuck is a blue zone?
Blue zones where people live longer.
Wait a minute, I took a couple of those at a party the other night. That shit was lit, boy. So what is it now?
Blue zones are places like Okinawa, or places where there's like a ton of people that live over 100. So they like to study them and be like, oh, why do these people live over 100? And a lot of the vegetarian side is they're like, oh, they eat like very low meat, a lot of them. But not all of them, but some of them do, like Okinawa. But you know what? They also eat, they eat a lot of rice. But they eat very low fat and they eat very low sugar. So that's why I'm saying I understand why it works. But they also, they eat a lot of fish, and they eat, so basically there's a lot more to it. You can't just look at a population, and just a lot of vegetarians just try to point to those blue zones. But basically people eat a paleo diet are creating their own blue zone. Yeah. Like these are, I wish they could be into one place, because they would all be very healthy and live a long time, but you can't really study.
So it's just location based, really.
And there's a ton of different variables too. It's like if they're walking a lot, right? They have a lot of family, close-knit family. They're getting a lot of sun. There's so many other good things out there.
We talked about cancer, but what about Alzheimer's prevention?
Yeah, Alzheimer's is being called type 3 diabetes. So
wow.
Yeah, it's almost the same thing going on in your body. It goes on in your brain. Your brain has insulin receptors too. And so we think of cancer and Alzheimer's as a very genetically driven thing. Yes, it is. But there's also a huge component of what you eat. And it's a metabolic disease. People are studying cancer as a metabolic disease. That's what Dom D'Agostino does. He basically studies it. And there's Otto Warburg back in the day, I don't remember what year, did experiments showing that it is he took out a healthy mitochondria and put it into a cancer cell and the opposite, and showed that it wasn't just genetic, that it was the actual mitochondrial problem. So cancer as a metabolic disease means what you eat affects cancer. So same thing with Alzheimer's is there's gene expression. So even if you have the Alzheimer's genes, you don't have to express that gene. So if you keep like a low blood sugar, you eat a diet that's like a paleo low carb diet for your whole life, we're thinking that you can avoid expressing that gene and never get Alzheimer's. And it makes sense because none of our ancestors didn't get tons of cancer and Alzheimer's or any of these chronic diseases. They're all caused by our diet.
What about soy?
Well, you could make a whole movie on that. I don't know if someone's made a movie about it. It's just
soy,
bad.
my allergy. Oh, you motherfucker.
People talk about estrogen, like, oh, there's hormones in beef. There's like 100,000 times the estrogen in soy than in beef.
Wait, so is that why I'm so sexy?
Maybe. Okay. You see, people get man boobs. If you eat a lot of soy, guys get man boobs. Okay. You heard about that, right?
Well,
yeah.
Shit, it went straight to my dicks like that.
And lastly, bad vegetable oils. Oh. What are good cooking oils, good eating oils? What are bad ones?
So I would recommend using, grass-fed butter. That's the most nutritious thing. But olive oil is good, avocado oil is good, and coconut oil is good.
Coconut oil is my favorite.
Those are fruit oils.
Oh, yeah, I love Coke too, man.
Those are fruit oils though, right? Coconut, avocado, and olives, those are all actually fruits. Huh. So all the bad oils are the vegetable oils and seed oils. They have a very high omega-6 ratio. And then also, why would we try to like press oil out of corn and all these weird things? Like we just invented that, right? These are polyunsaturated fatty acids. This is not.
They just wanted to extend that dollar a little more.
Exactly. I love olive oil. We'll have a question from the Underground Black Network. Carl Wakanda Anthony reporting. I just heard about this whole thing about eating garlic, and they're supposed to eat 6 cloves of garlic, roast them, and then eat them in like a day. Is this some sort of cleanse? Does this actually work? Is it a good idea?
Well, there's tons of like little things like that I kind of don't pay attention to because there's a million things that can be good, could be bad. It's hard to study them. It's hard to know. And I mean, if it's a whole food, I'd say eat it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it is. Yeah.
Dr. Rhoda Patrick swears by eating raw garlic, and I do this too. I've noticed a lot. It's great at fighting infections. It's like nature's antibiotic.
Yeah, that's what they said. They said they went through this whole process. The whole 24. They explained like
it's
in the first 2 hours
antimicrobial food is what it's classified as. So what you got to do with garlic is you cut it up, cut the clove up, and expose the inside to air. Yeah, they said cut the top off and whatnot, and then put oil on it, roast it and shit. And actually, cooking it does a little bit best. If to activate the enzymes in it, all you got to do is cut it open and expose it to air for 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. So I just cut it open into like little chunks, and I leave it on my counter in the kitchen, and I go do something, and I come back, and I don't even chew it. I just like swallow it and pop it like a pill, so you don't have to chew it with that pungent flavor or bad breath.
That's that Sailor Dev. You're just a tough army pirate. How huge are your forearms over there, Popeye? Jesus fucking Christ. God,
a lot of lifting fish and jerking off and drinking beer.
Well, as you heard, there's a lot of estrogen in the stuff he said I'll be eating, so I'm too sensitive to be doing that shit. I need my shit roasted and soft.
I'll pull a fish right out of the ocean and bite its fucking head off if I'm hungry.
He's a bear. He's a bear. Don't you go to West Hollywood by mistake. Somebody might grab on you. Like, ooh, I like a bear.
Shout out Pride Week.
Yeah, right. Shout out to Pride Week. Also, it is technically Happy Father's Day, so shout out to all our fathers and fathers to be and future children that are still in our nutsacks. Great fathers and fathers help the mothers help be great. Yes. Happy Father's Day.
Everyone out there listening, go to foodlies.org. Guys, is there anything else you want to say or ask Brian? I mean, B, is there anything else you want to...
We're on Indiegogo. We're crowdfunding right now, actually.
There you go.
You know what? Someone snapped up. There was $1,000. Sean Baker offered up sharing a steak with him, and someone got it the first day.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's awesome.
I might ask him to do another one, but people are funding this movie. I mean, I've been doing this on my own dime, basically. I'm like gonna go broke. Yeah. So I'm not even trying to make money off this film. I'm just trying to get it made, right? Yeah. So like we're only raising about $60K. That's the initial goal. That's just gonna barely make it. Yeah. If I call in favors, I mean, I probably need to raise more than that. So
well, you got the Skitbags fam, you got Dash Radio fam. Now you got plugs. All the links for all your stuff is going to be in the description of this video and at the end. And also, most importantly, go to foodlies.org and check out Brian on social media, man. Follow Food Lies on Instagram, on Twitter. Dude, I really want to say thank you for, doing this because it's a very important thing for culture and for humanity. Yeah. And I think that's the home run here for me is like seeing how you are taking it upon yourself because this is what you're passionate about. This is what inspires you. And you feel like a need to go out and share this information with the world to make it a better place.
Yeah, that's how you know it's going to be good when it's done because you're doing it for a bigger purpose.
I am. Both my parents had real bad problems with chronic disease. And this stuff is real. And I mean, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. This is not just a film. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm working with a doctor to make a healthcare program to help people reverse type 2 diabetes like Virta. is doing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to start this thing called Sapien Movement. I'm making the site right now. I don't know when it'll be done, but basically it just means we want to end industrial agriculture. The simplest thing you can say: end industrial agriculture and eat ancestrally. Right? So those go hand in hand. So no more monocropping, no more factory farming. Feedlots. Let's just go back to how we used to raise animals, and let's just eat those animals and vegetables, and everyone will be healthier, and we can do this sustainably, and it's going to help the environment, and it's really simple.
Yeah, it's going to take a shift back to the government. Now, I do have these weird fantasies of running for president, so I'm going to add it to it, part of my Make America Green Again campaign, that you want to invest money. Like, if we cut back on military funds, I want to invest money into stuff like that to maybe put people back to work, building more local farms around the city. Then it can generate money for the local people and food. Healthy cut down their income stuff and whatnot. And it could be something that's kind of circular and whatnot. And it could be something that the government could sponsor, that military engineers could run it, and it'd be really great.
I'm in.
Well, thank you, B, for coming on. As always, greatly appreciate it. And, you got the fam at your resources. And, you got my number. Whatever we could do to help. You need people, you need plugs, you need connection, you need some cheddar. You fucking give me a holler, brother.
Oh, yeah, you need money, call Devin. Don't call me.
Well, let's close this out, man. Let's wrap this up. I'm just so flabbergasted. I'm still processing all the information we just talked about.
I got more to say, man. I wish we had 2 more hours.
I know. Well, here's an easy thing. We do this every week. We got to just get you back, man. Yeah. We'll get you back. We can do this. We'll pump some plugs. Speaking of pumping plugs, everybody, please go check out Scramble Movie on iTunes. Our friends at LA Reels. First We Take Brooklyn is out right now. Gotti movie just premiered. That's going to be out in theaters. Madness in the Method, Jason Mewes' directorial debut is coming out. Yep. Keepers with Gerard Butler. We just got rid of that. Didn't get rid of it. Sold it at Cannes. This is great. That'll be in theaters coming out too. Also, I know I'm forgetting stuff. Carl, you're gonna The Clapper is out on Netflix right now. Thank you. Also, we have exclusives from Clusterfest. I know we talked about it. We got the episode just aired, and is going to continue to air on our regular slot. This will be out in very soon, in the next couple of weeks. But go to our YouTube channel. Please go to our YouTube channel. Subscribe. That's where you get all the exclusive content, and that's where you get the best of the best. Also, tune in every fucking week on Dash Talk at 8 p.m. on Tuesdays, and make your chance to slide on over to Dash Comedy, because we love our friends over there, and we help them out with a bunch of stuff, and we love them and they love us. So other than that, let's tag out social media. Anybody? B, you want to plug anything?
Food Lies, man. Just at food.lies, foodlies.org. Just find it. YouTube as well.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, Poppy Carlo on Instagram, Mr. C-Force on the Twitters and whatnot. Always check out Sherlock Homie and whatnot on some dumb shit. GT's Comedy Jam, because we do comedy shows in LA. We love it. The Ding Dong Show, which is on Mondays at the Comedy Store in the Belly Room. And, you better always come back this motherfucker and listen to our shit.
Hey guys, follow me on Instagram, Gabby Shake. Follow me on Twitter, Gabby Shake, the same thing. Go on YouTube and check out the Hermione Granger series. Yes. Hermione Granger and the Quarter Life Crisis. I'm in it this second season. Parvati Patel. It's amazing. Go check out all that stuff.
Yeah.
Word. And I did forget to plug one more thing and give a shout out to one of our sponsors is Fight Dub. Go over to YouTube and check out me and Bert's new show, Fight Dub. It's very comedic based. We basically go over different elements of combat and humanity, whether it's professional fighting or a comical movie scene, or even some dude doing fake Tai Chi, not even touching people fighting. And we bring professional fighters and people in the industry on and comment on that. And it's a lot of fun. And speaking of that, the reason I'm bringing that up is we want to give a big shout out to Nuwaza Apparel. Yeah. Go to nuwazaapparel.com to get some fresh fucking swag. If you want a gi, you want a rash guard, you want training gear, they got that. But if you just want great art and great puns and a really good tone of some shirts, pants, hats, all that kind of stuff, head on over to the website. It speaks for itself. I don't need to plug it anymore.
Nuwaza.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Check us out. Skitbags Radio. We out.
Skitbags Radio. Skitbags Radio.